Hi everybody, welcome to Afterburner. I'm Bill Whittle. You know, the chances are excellent that during the time it takes you to watch this video, someone's being beaten to death or gang raped or being executed not only in horrific ways, but simply lined up and shot in the back by Muslim savages known as ISIS. Here's one of their recruiting posters. Notice the brave Islamic warriors on horseback with their scimitars, and front and center, the ISIS signature act. Beheading a bound prisoner. Brutally executing a bound captive is rightly considered through every age and culture the nadir of brutality, savagery, and shame. ISIS murderers wear these outrages on their sleeves, constantly inventing new, ever more horrific variations on this ultimate act of bestial inhumanity. A man is set on fire in a cage. Homosexuals are thrown to their death from a 4-story building. A group of prisoners are drowned together behind bars. And of course, the old Islamic standby, a group of young women are stoned to death for refusing to be the sex slaves of these so-called warriors. And of course, the reactions of the left, from feminists who get lathered up over a Rush Limbaugh quote, well, that's just nothing but silence. That's one kind of silence. There's another kind of silence. It's the sound that a predator drone doesn't make as it loiters thousands of feet above these two-legged animals. The Joint Operations Center at CENTCOM, located at MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, is a pretty quiet place as well. Conversations there are muted and often lighthearted. The room itself is a lot less impressive than the multi-story, blinking light subterranean cave that Hollywood would make of it if it ever decided to get back into the business of making movies about real good and evil and, parenthetically, decide to come down on the side of good for a change. Because in reality, the Joint Operations Center, the JOC, looks like the sports book at a low-end casino. There's a few large monitors on one wall, there's rows of desks with various workstations, and generally, it's not too different than a modern college classroom with the Florida sun burning a hole in the humidity outside. But the main thing about this room is the kind of people that populate it. It's astonishingly disappointing if you're a Hollywood hack, but spectacularly, almost unbelievably American if you happen to be the kind of American that reveres these people as much as I do. Because unlike the murderers, the rapists, the torturers, and the 7th century barbarian savages that we find ourselves arrayed against in this post-space age, the people at CENTCOM are happy and they're kind. They joke and laugh and play with their kids, and they're just as normal and decent as the rest of the middle of the country. I hung out with actual active duty fighter pilots, and I can tell you with 100% certainty that if, in the middle of one of their routine and fully awesome hangar parties, an actual scream came from across the narrow strip of bay outside the hangar, then those warriors would not only not be the cause of it, but they'd tear out of there like bats out of heaven and not stop searching for whoever was in trouble until they were found. Now back at the JOC, these fathers and housewives and all around goofballs and jokers open their Tupperware containers and they eat their lunches. And up on the screen, beamed down in real time 24/7, is the God's eye view of these murderers, courtesy of orbiting predator drones and other assets. The imaging station provides the real-time surveillance. It's then passed to targeting that has a very clear and very long list of people who've sawed the heads off of innocent prisoners. Once identified, a small strike task group adjourns to what looks like a very plain, inornate in-house conference room, and there, an officer wearing general stars on the uniform reviews the situation, weighs the certainty of the identification, looks for potential collateral damage, and when he's sure he's got the first and is free of the second, he gives an order, and on the other side of the continent, another happy warrior pulls a trigger in an air-conditioned room, and a Hellfire missile comes off the rail, consigning yet another prisoner-murdering son of a bitch to the hell he has condemned his own people to right here on Earth. Now, you may think this happens once or twice a month. Doing the math on the unclassified numbers of strikes launched in the last year, it comes out to an average of a little less than 20 strikes per day. These knife-wielding Islamic butchers, very brave when standing behind bound prisoners who've been beaten or raped for weeks or months, get blasted into atoms by people who would jump into a freezing river to save a drowning raccoon. 20 strikes a day is a lot of strikes, but there are only 2 missiles on a standard Predator. And once they're off the rails, the cameras stay on station awaiting relief. And then, momentarily powerless, the happy warriors in the CENTCOM JOC have to watch the beheadings and the gang rapes and the executions and store those feelings up for when the next round of Hellfire missiles comes on station. You would think that brutal men, children even, hard enough to saw the living heads off of prisoners pleading for their lives, would make the ultimate warriors, ruthless and deadly, and that the soft people, the kind people, the happy warriors, with children and pets who volunteer at churches, they'd be no match for them. You'd be wrong. Because when things get really serious, it's no longer about launching a missile off of the rail of an unmanned flying robot. Then those same people have to make the same decisions that will send 4 or 10 or 40 or perhaps several hundred other happy warriors into these hellholes. People like them, they're friends in many cases, and generals will tell these happy warriors the odds and the uncertainties and the risks. And then these men will volunteer to do what they have volunteered to do, and do better than anyone in the history of the world, which is come down out of the sky and go into the heart of the suck and make these demons pay for walking the earth with actual human beings.